guys, what is up? My name is Megan. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe, and welcome to today's video, which is actually a video I have done in the past, and that is recommending books for almost every romance trope. Now, I said almost. I know there are more tropes than this. Please be kind. But if you are looking for recommendations for specific tropes, the video will have chapter headings so you can move around as you please. But the tropes that will be featured in this video are fake dating, enemies to lovers, second chance romance, celebrity romances, friends to lovers, single parent, office romances, and they were roommates. Might be my favorite one. So these recommendations will be for adult and YA combined, and without further ado, let's just hop on in. I will have links to my previous videos if they are still public, so that you guys can peruse more recommendations if needed. Some books you obviously might have heard of on BookTube, and some of them you might not have. I tried to kind of get a mix of things. So we are going to start off with fake dating. I have 2 YA recommendations and 1 adult recommendation as well. My first one is one I read recently for my vlog where my TBR jar picked my next reads, and that is Like a Love Song. Now this book could actually work for more than one trope, but I decided to put it in fake dating. This is about a Brazilian main character, and this is Own Voices as the author is also Brazilian, who is kind of like a teen pop star. She is a singer and she has got a lot of traction. Now at the beginning of this book, she is going to accept an award and is broken up with in a very humiliating way by her boyfriend. And in order for her to kind of redo her image, she starts fake dating this British boy who is an indie film actor. And this is just the most pure and adorable romance. This is the kind of book I recommend if you are looking for something to binge very quickly, like something as a palate cleanser, or you're just looking to get out of a reading slump. This will do it for you. It is adorable. They travel together. It's kind of like they have a meeting once, they aren't the biggest fans of each other, and then obviously with the fake dating they meet again, they become friends, and then the romantic feelings start to appear and they're not sure what to do with it. This was beautiful. It's fun, it's light, it's fluffy, and it also talks about what it is to be Brazilian in America and to be a Brazilian singer in the spotlight and what that means as well. So there is, you know, some actual content in there, not just fluff. Highly recommend this one. Then, an all-time favorite of mine, which I have to recommend, is Counting Down With You. This book I tabbed so much. This is the story of our main character who has a very protective family, and while her family is gone for 28 days, she starts fake dating this kind of school bad boy. I don't want to get into the mechanics of it too much because I really do think going into this one blindly is how you'll get the best experience, but it is like a fake dating trope for 28 days, and you know that at the end of those 28 days her parents will be coming back, and that essentially their fake relationship will need to end. Now obviously before the 28 days end there are some feelings, and this is just like, this boy is like the perfect book boyfriend. He buys her books, he's very attentive, and it's just a very sweet romance that blossoms between 2 people who you wouldn't think would have that much in common but end up having so. And it's just beautiful. It feels like a first love kind of story, and the fake dating is just so fun, and it adds an element of tension. Honestly, I recommend this book just in general. I think this book is absolutely slept on, and it is just beautiful. It's emotional. It talks about different cultures as well, and the impacts of having a relationship when you're a teenager. This is like on the verge of YA, but they are older characters, so I recommend even if you like to read adult. Obviously there isn't like spice in here, but you guys, this is such a beautiful sweet story, and like the angst created by the fake dating and also the fact that they feel very like opposite, chef's kiss. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And my adult recommendation is Falling for Your Fake Fiancé by Emma St. Clair. Now this entire series, like the love cliches, is essentially just tropes, this one being fake dating. And I just think that the author like really nails the tropes, and they're always so fun. This book is underhyped. It is closed door, so it's like, it's cute, but there's no spice in it. But it's just, I love it. Again, I don't want to say too much because I feel like when you explain why they're fake dating and all those things, you kind of take away from the story and the nature of it itself. But just know that this is an excellent book and book series if you're reading something just to kind of binge through. The characters are fun, it's adorable, it has a dog, and yeah, I just love that for us. The next trope is enemies to lovers. Now I must say that these books, they're not actually enemies, and I believe that in most romance books that are not fantasy, it's usually one-sided and it's usually not hatred or like enemy-like feelings, but rivals, whatever you want to call it, these fit the bill. Now the first one I want to recommend is Shipped by Angie Hockman. This is about two co-workers who are competing for the same job that are sent on a cruise together, and our main female character really dislikes the male character, and it is obviously kind of like hate to love. This is a great summer read if you're looking for something that has like warm weather vibes that you could read on the beach. It is very bingeable, and the settings of this book are incredible. The pacing is also on point, and you can really feel the shift in the relationship between I don't really like you, I'm kind of ambivalent, you're not my favorite person, to I really like this person, but what does this mean for my job? And I feel like the plot line and the way that things are done was done incredibly well. A lot of people describe this as a mix between The Hating Game and The Unhoneymooners. I have not read The Hating Game, but it does really give me The Unhoneymooners vibes if that is something you're looking for. My other recommendation I talked so much about when I read, and that is Bet the Farm by Stacey Hart. This is another underhyped book in my opinion, and it is freaking amazing. This is a dual perspective romance, and it follows a main character who inherited a farm, but the twist is that the farmhand also inherited the other 50%, and so they have to work together to keep this farm from going out of business because it wasn't doing so well. Now the farmhand is very knowledgeable about the farm but doesn't seem to want to make any changes, whereas our main female protagonist wants to bring about a bunch of changes to obviously help its financial situation. They really much butt heads at the beginning about the future of the farm and the fact that she has not been on this farm for years and years, and our main male character doesn't feel like she should have her say in this because she doesn't know anything about farming. And again, they spend more time together, and as they work together and try to save this farm, their relationship changes from like enemies to friends and then to lovers, and it is beautiful. This is both like adorable and steamy, but it also has some beautiful raw moments, and I think that this book tackles a lot of beautiful things. And again, it is one that I have tabbed very much and that I really recommend reading. I'm not sure if this is on Kindle Unlimited, but you guys should give Stacey Hart a try, like I am begging you, and this is just honestly fantastic. So those were my recommendations. For second chance romance, I am not the biggest second chance romance girly because in my own personal life, I believe that I do believe in change. I do believe people can change, but I am not one to believe a relationship can work a second time around. So I don't really love it in my books, but I cannot not talk about Happy Place by Emily Henry. Now I know a lot of people love this, a lot of people hate this. It is not her fan favorite from what I can see online, but this has been my one and only 5-star of 2023 so far, and I just think it tackles second chance romances very well. If you have not heard what this book is about, it basically follows our main character who, when she was in college, met this boy, and at first they were friends and then they ended up falling in love. They were together for multiple years, got engaged, and then because their paths kind of took two ways, ended up separating. Now, the beginning of this book, our main character is going to her annual French trip, and this boy is there, but no one had, like, they haven't told their friends they are not together anymore, so they're like, you know what, we're going to fake being together for this weekend. At the end of it, we'll tell our friends that we are no longer together, because obviously it's going to hurt the friend group. And while they are on this weekend getaway or week getaway, and that they have to fake date each other, they end up realizing how strong their love is and trying to find reasons at first why it wouldn't work and why it wasn't working, but then coming to the consensus that they rather have to make changes in their lives than separate and part ways again. And I feel that this progression was made so naturally, and that the reasons for them not being together and coming back together were both very healthy, although there is some obvious miscommunication, but it also made sense because when you're at their age and that, you know, you've grown so much since college, things do change. And I feel like the entirety of this book was beautiful. I sobbed so many times reading this, and it is, like, to me, the ultimate second chance romance. So I highly recommend Happy Place. That was, however, my only recommendation because, as I said, I don't read them a lot. The next trope I have is celebrity romances. Now, most of this, if not all of these, no, not all of these, but most of them are like rock star romances. I don't like calling them that. But I have 3 recommendations for you, all of which are adult. The first one, and the one I haven't shut up about in years, is the Starstruck series by, why am I blanking? Susanna Nix. Now, these are the old covers. I like them because they're kind of like nostalgic for me. Feel very like Starstruck vibes, but this is just an example of the new covers. So they're illustrated covers. So if you weren't a fan of these and you're like, ew, give them a chance because she redid the covers. But these are essentially rockstar romances, but they pack a lot more than that. The series is about, obviously, famous people who are struggling, some of them with addiction, some of them with other issues, and that has made having relationships very tricky for them. And this series has a way of creating characters who are really there for each other and create such beautiful, raw, emotional romances. You wouldn't really think that by the vibes, but they really incorporate like the cockiness of celebrities, but also the hardships that it is to be famous and how that makes having a relationship difficult. And obviously, look up trigger warnings, but I could not recommend these books enough. These are so underhyped, and if you're looking for a romance book that has something else other than just romance, like, I would shout through the rooftops for this. Like, honestly, Susanna Nix hit the nail straight on the head with this series, and I love them. I recommend all of them, and if you want more of like an explained synopsis, please let me know in the comments. I will happily talk with you about these books, but honestly, please, if you're gonna take one recommendation out of this video, it's like, I recommend this. Now, the next book. The next book is Found It Out and Goodbye by Kat Singleton. If you have seen my most recent vlog, I read the second book in this series, which is called the Mixtape series. And I gave that book 1 star, but this is a 5-star, and you can definitely read it on its own. This is about a I guess he's a pop singer, and we have a main female character who is a dancer for him, but she was essentially hired as a dancer, but also to get close to him, make him fall in love with her, and then she is supposed to break his heart so that he can release new music. Now, you can guess that that gets messy, and it's angsty. It's also like, she feels bad falling in love with him for real because she has the obligation to break his heart. I really like the writing, the smut, the spiciness in here. I just think it was so well done. If you can take this book and read it as its own. I do not recommend the next book. I do not, but I do recommend this one. I have a full vlog reading this if you want to see more of my in-depth thoughts. The last book I have for this specific trope is one I might get hate on, or you might question my judgment, and that's okay. But I will say, if you're looking for a palette cleanser, if you're the kind of reader like me, if you've seen other videos on my channel, you'll understand why I love this book so much and why I'm taking the chance to recommend it. And that is Cinder and Ella by Kelly Oram. This is gonna be cringe for some of you. Some of you are gonna be like, no, this is not the vibe. No thank you, let's not do this. And that's okay. But this is adorable. I freaking love this. Is also the like anonymous writing trope, like they're talking online but don't know who they are in real life, which is another one of my favorite tropes. That trope slaps. But this is essentially between a main female character who fits the Cinderella profile. This is like a Cinderella retelling, and a famous, I believe he's an actor. Yes, he is an actor. And essentially it kind of follows loosely the Cinderella plotline, but it also has the anonymous texter. Well, I guess that's kind of like the Cinderella movie with Hilary Duff in here. So you can see how it's a little bit cringe, but it's also adorable and it's so swoony, and like, I love this. There is also a sequel to this which I want to read, but honestly I read this in one sitting and I was so giddy, like I was kicking my feet. It's such a good palette cleanser. It fills me with joy, and if you're looking for Cinderella retellings in a romance trope, this is it, you guys. I did a poor job explaining this, but I highly recommend this book, even if no one else does. I don't know. The next trope we are going to talk about is friends to lovers. This has become one of my favorite tropes throughout the last 2 years. So I have 2 YA tropes that read like very high-end YA, as well as one which I would classify as new adult. My first recommendation is Our Way Back to Always by Nina Moreno, who is also the author of Don't Date Rosa Santos. I have a full review of this book if you want more of my in-depth thoughts, but this is essentially a dual perspective story that follows Lou and Sam, who were childhood best friends but had a falling out in high school. It is now their senior year and Lou is having like an identity crisis. She is Latina, and it is very important for her family that she goes to college, especially because of her sister's situation, who ended up dropping out of college and having a child. And so Lou is feeling that pressure of having the perfect college application and having all of this stress without really knowing what she wants to do with her life. And then we have Sam, who is now the main provider for his family because his dad passed away, so trigger warning for the loss of a parent. And at the beginning of the story, Lou finds an old bucket list that she and Sam had made together, and in order for her to kind of reduce her stress and cope with the stress of her senior year, she's like, you know what, I'm going to do this list even if it's without Sam. And then Sam finds out what she's doing and he's like, I want to join. And this list rekindles their friendship and makes them fall in love, and it's just the discussions around what becoming a young adult means and the decisions you have to make for yourself, for your family, and the stressors that comes with age were done remarkably well. The discussions around grief are fantastic, and the romance in here was swoony. I recommend this book times 1 million. Like, this book is fantastic, my favorite book of 2022, and just for the love of God, read this book. Another YA I read this year, which was almost a 5-star as well, is Places We've Never Been by Casey West. This has a similar kind of vibe to this book, and it follows a main character who is her name? Yes, her name is Nora, and Nora used to be best friends with this boy named Skylar, and they moved away, which obviously meant that they were no longer, you know, in as much contact as they were when they were younger. At the beginning of this novel, Nora's family and Skylar's family are reuniting for a trip that they are taking in this VR and RV, not VR. That's the French version. And so Nora is very excited to kind of rekindle her friendship with Skylar. However, he wants nothing to do with her. And so she's like, questioning what happened. And so it's the story of their past and why Skylar is no longer wanting to be in contact with Nora, to them becoming friends again on this trip and then eventually falling in love. This also has talks of college and applications and being a woman in male dominated fields, and it talks about what growing up is and just so many different things and what it's like to be friends with people when you're no longer in close contact. I recommend this book times 1000, and the trip element, like the road trip element, also adds a lot of fun. It feels very summery, and I think this is one of Casey West's best book. My last one for this is kind of an obvious one because it blew up on the internet, but that is The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. This is the story of a ballerina and a football player who were best friends, but they both kind of have feelings for each other but have not said anything in order to not ruin the friendship, which, classic. And so this is the story of them being friends, dealing with each other, having relationships, and then ending up trying, like, the boy tries to make a cheat sheet for her to fall in love with him. It is beautiful. It is swoony. This does not have steam. TikTok may lie to you. This is a closed door romance, and it feels very new adult to me, but it's just the way that their friendship is and the way that they always choose each other over anybody else really sets the tone for the romance. It is beautiful. It is the definition of friends to lovers in my book, and it's just, the vibes were immaculate. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because everybody and their mom has heard about the cheat sheet at this point, but know that it is an option. We then have the single parent trope, and for that I have two recommendations. Both of them are adult. The first one is The Stud Next Door by Kendall Ryan. This is part of the Frisky Business series. All of them are very tropey. This one follows a man who has a little baby daughter, and he's obviously kind of struggling to care for her, and then one day this woman moves in next door and she's like, I can help you. He hires her to be the nanny, and then they end up falling in love, and I just eat this crap up. Like, a single parent, especially when a single parent is the dad, straight to the heart like a dagger, and it's just, you got me 110%. This is a very typical, very easy romance to go through, and I love the kind of forbidden aspect because she is a nanny and it's not regarded well to hit on your nanny, you know, and just him caring for his daughter was really well done in this book, and I just love the chemistry between both characters. Highly recommend this one. And the other book, and the one I recommend the most out of these two, is The Anti-Boyfriend by Penelope Ward. You guys, I absolutely, again, tabbed this book, but I adore this book. This follows a single mother who lives in an apartment, and her next door neighbor is very noisy because he has a lot of female company. And so one day she goes to kind of tell him, like, can you reduce the noise because our walls are very thin and I can hear everything and it's not good, it's waking up my baby, I can't sleep. And he ends up volunteering to, like, help her out. She's like, you look exhausted, let me get coffee for you, I'll buy your baby diapers. And he starts helping her out that way. And so they end up being friends, and ultimately they have a romantic interest for each other, but he is like the anti-boyfriend because he keeps having those short-term relationship, one-night stands, but he doesn't commit, and is therefore the story of how he ends up committing to her and how it's difficult for them at first because he's not used to committing to a relationship, and her having her, you know, she's not so sure about his intentions because he's usually just hooking up with people all the time. This was fun. It was adorable. It was adorable to see his interactions with her baby. And if I'm not mistaken, the baby has Down syndrome as well, and it, for me, was very well handled. However, do not listen to my opinion on that because I do not know anyone who cares for a baby with Down syndrome or has Down syndrome. But it was very interesting to see how that was dealt with in the book, and I highly recommend. This video was ended up a lot longer than I expected, but we only have 2 tropes left for those of you who are sticking through the entire video. Let's talk office romances, and the 3 I have to recommend are very basic and a lot of people have read them. but I'm gonna recommend them anyways because I think they do it right. The first one is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. Again, I have loved this book because I really like, as I said before, kind of like anonymous texting, mistaken identities, those kinds of tropes. I eat them up like candy. If you have any recommendations for me for that trope, leave them in the comments below. But this kind of does that because we have Ronan and Zara, and they have been talking, like texting, because of a wrong number. But then Zara gets hired to design this ride at a kind of like Disneyland-esque park, and Ronan is the boss, and it's just, I love this. I love how the chaos of the mistaken identity, wrong number, creates chaos within this book, and the angst and just the kind of forbidden aspect I feel like was very well done. And I just like both of her characters. Ronan is chef's kiss for me as a main male character. It is dual perspective, which I also love, and I don't feel like I need to talk too much about this because this has been everywhere, booktube, bookstagram, book talk, so recommend this one. Then we have By a Thread by Lucy Score. This I feel like is one of her most underhyped books, and this was actually my introduction to Lucy Score back in, was it 2022 or 2021? I don't remember. I think it's 2022. This is essentially The Devil Wears Prada in a book. We follow two main characters. One of the female character used to work at this pizza shop, and then the main male protagonist comes in and he does something to piss her off, and she writes, I think, F you with the pepperoni on his pizza. He ends up getting her fired, but his mother sees that and she's like, you know what, I'm gonna hire you for our business. And then she ends up working for him in this fashion business, which she has no business in. Like, she's not very knowledgeable, and he ends up being her boss, and then they have kind of like this hatred at first that blooms, and then it's tension, and then they end up romance. You know, it's a long book. It's a little too long in my opinion, but I just think it does the office romance very well, and the tension and the implications of dating your boss I feel like are very well explored in this one. And it's just, it was a fun way to have more of The Devil Wears Prada in book form because I love that movie, and if you do too, I highly recommend this one. But my biggest recommendation for this one, and I feel like one that is not underhyped per se, but I feel like doesn't get its just worth, is Luna and the Lie by Mariana Zapata. This I feel like is one of her most underhyped books, but to me this is a gold mine. This book, chef's kiss. We follow Luna, who has had a difficult upbringing, and she ends up working at this garage, and the man who owns it has really taken her under his wing and really loves and cares for her. He is kind of like a parental figure for her at this stage in her life. Come in this, what is he even called? I don't even remember. I think it starts with an R. I don't remember, but I just love him. So introduce the main male, who is very grumpy, who starts working at this garage and tries to make a bunch of changes. He doesn't really like her. She tries to be very nice. It's like Grumpy Sunshine, and they don't get off on the right foot. But then they start talking, they work together, and it kind of goes from there. And I don't want to say too much about this book because I feel like you should just go into it and trust me, but this is beautiful. It's also kind of unconventional because it's not like a typical office, it's an actual like mechanic's garage, and our main character has a lot of talent in that, and it's just such a fun ride, and it really does Grumpy Sunshine well, and I just think it's fun. It touches on family, it touches on so many other things, and it is just a beautiful, beautiful story, and I recommend this one. If you have not read this Mariana Zapata, you're sleeping on it, I'm telling you. And the last trope we have to talk about in this never-ending video is the roommates trope, which is also iconic, one of my favorites. And honestly, like, if I had to pick out a romance trope to live, me personally, I think I'd choose the roommates trope. I really think I would. I have 3 recommendations for this, and all of them are adult. starting with the classic recommendation if you come to my channel, which is Not Pretending Anymore. This book is my shit. It's my trademark. I love this book. You should love it too. This is by Penelope Ward and Vi Keeland. It is a dual perspective novel that follows a main character who sets an ad out to find a new roommate, and she ideally wants it to be a girl because, you know, you feel safer living with strangers when they're of the same gender than you. Totally relate to that. But out of desperation and male character kind of pushing his way in, she's like, you know what, take the room. And so they end up being friends because at the time both of them are in relationships, and so they're there for each other when they struggle with their relationships, and they end up both of them having feelings for each other. Now there's no cheating in this book. I don't do books with cheating. I'm just putting that out there. And when their relationships end or are happening and they realize they have feelings for each other, they start making each other jealous because they don't know how to handle their feelings, and they are roommates and they don't want to ruin their friendships, and it kind of evolves from there. And the roommates aspect and the friendship adds a dynamic and a tension because you're living with this person and they have I don't know how to explain it. I have a vlog reading this and I feel like I do it more justice there, but it encapsulates the roommates dynamic perfectly, and the tension and the angst and not knowing what to do and not wanting to ruin a friendship, and it's just the whole vibe. The whole freaking vibe. I love this. Love it. The next one I have is Sunny Disposition by Deanna Gray, and this is one I have read this year and I absolutely fell in love with this. This is a hockey romance, and it follows two main characters who, again, anonymously talk online, and they kind of had a falling out but are communicating again. And then we follow our main female and male characters who meet in real life and end up being roommates, and they have this tension and attraction for each other, but they're also not doing anything because they're roommates and there's other friends involved, and it's very complicated. But both of them are in love with the other person online, but they are also, you know, it's the other person, and because of that they also don't want to act on their the tension and the angst they are feeling towards each other in real life because they're in love with people online. So it's them navigating that, being roommates, and also the hockey romance, and it is just the best mix of tropes ever. I love this book. And our main female character is a gamer. I really like that, and it's just very precious. There's a lot of discussions on family life, and it's phenomenal. Highly recommend. I'm all over the place at this point in the video. And the last recommendation, please do not take the title or the cringy cover into consideration when I'm recommending this. This is Cocky Roommate, and this is a series of books. I have loved them. I haven't seen anyone else talk about these books on the book community where I'm at. This is about a boy who is kind of like a playboy, and he doesn't do more than one night stands, and our main female character who's basically wife material, and they are friends, but they end up they're friends, they're roommates, and they end up falling in love. It's just beautiful. It's also a lot about discussions on trust and who you can trust and how that makes you appreciate and love people even more. And I am one to believe that trust and relationships, whatever they are, will positively or negatively affect your relation, and seeing the people who are there for you and who stand by you when times get tough also will impact how you feel about them romantically. And I feel like this book encapsulates a lot of what I believe in a book, so I wanted to recommend that one as well. So that was the chaos of recommending books for every trope. I hope you got something out of it, and I will not make this any longer than it needs to be. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye guys, happy reading.